morning, everyone. Good morning. Just a housekeeping announcement while we're waiting for the meeting to start. The host has kindly offered also bags and other materials in the bags. So if you haven't realized that they're available, please proceed to the counter on the right-hand side when you enter the building, and this is where you can collect your conference bag. So please do that while you are waiting for the start of the meeting. Thank you.
need only this one, probably. Okay.
Yeah.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished members of MOP7 delegations. Welcome to the last day plenary meeting. We shall begin our plenary with reports from the committees that we set up, beginning with the Credentials Committee. I invite Algeria to take the floor and brief the meeting of parties on the outcome of the Committee on Credentials. Algeria.
Bonjour tout le monde.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Concerning the results or the outcome of our committee, our Credentials Committee, out of 46 countries present, 36 credentials were accepted, 6 were rejected, 4 were not received. Thank you.
Thank you, Algeria. The written report will be provided to the Secretariat to be captured in the record of proceedings, which will have a list of countries and the corresponding decisions on their credentials by the committee. Let me now invite the chair of Working Group 1 on scientific and technical matters to brief the distinguished members of the MOP on the outcome of the working group on scientific and technical matters. David?
Thank you very much. Working Group 1 met on Wednesday afternoon and all day Thursday. We considered 10 draft resolutions, resolutions 1 to 9 inclusive, and draft resolution 11, and reached consensus on all those resolutions, and which have been transmitted to this plenary. We also discussed a proposal from Norway for a recommendation with respect to the implementation review process, and I understand that has been submitted to the Secretariat for consideration by the Bureau for possible transmission to this plenary. I'd just like to thank all those involved for their positive engagement in the work of the working group. And whilst I have the floor, I meant at the conclusion of our work to thank the translators for their hard work in support of our working group. So take this opportunity now to do so on the working group's behalf. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. I will now invite the chair of the second working group on finance and administration to brief the meeting of parties on the outcome of the working group on finance and administration. Oystein?
Thank you so much, and good morning. I will not be as brief as David. I'll try to walk you through. I think this is of interest to all of us. Certainly would like also to thank all the participants that contributed and also attended our meetings during the week. Also like to thank very competent contributions done by the Secretariat, and you can understand that the Secretariat have had a lot of work, their hands were full, and also we had some issues with the internet. So that's why we were a bit late, if you can accept that apology for being late this morning. When you look at budgets for the triennium in this case, of course, there are a number of issues that will surface. First, I would like to recognize that we all need to respect the different positions, different parties. We have major payers. Of course, they the impact could be high on those. So as usual, we not only for this MEA but also in other MEAs we need to listen to those. But that doesn't, eliminate the opinion of all of us, because we do have budgets to relate to back home, have to be approved by our own governments. What happened over the last 10 years, we did accumulate an issue, put it that way, as we decided to pick into the trust fund. We were using reserves, and we did not have a smooth increase or a small increase every year, but we decided to keep it at a low level. Even I think we can fairly say that we were actually decreasing the contribution by the parties. When you do that, you do accumulate, could we call it a deficit at least, you do accumulate a need to do a jump. We have heard that parties wanted to revert back to the UN scale. I think that was decided by the last MOP. That meant a substantial hike raise because of this accumulation over the last 10 years, as mentioned. That caused problems, caused issues for many, which is perfectly acceptable. At the same time, we have to recognize and also be grateful for Secretariat's efforts to try to smooth that substantial hike for many of us, maybe all of us. That happened through suggestions like a minimum cap, a maximum cap, 20%, a phasing in of the increase over the coming triennium. We also added this meeting a cap of 100%, meaning that no party should double their 100% their increase. If there were some parties above 100%, they would be capped at 100. So these are ways forward to try to smooth. Maybe not easy to recognize when you look at the tables. So that I saw that could be a problem for parties to actually recognize that we did do our homework and try to accommodate for this. But the issue is that we needed to do a turn to the UN scale. We also had quite a debate on what UN scale actually to use. As we all know, we had documents prior to the meeting which were based on the 2015 UN scale, which was a fair opinion to point at, because there were also parties suggesting that we should turn to the 2018 scale, which is underway. It will be ready, I don't know, in a few days or something by the UN. And it was known to us. I decided that we would stick to the 2015 scale, even if it would be to the advantage of some of the parties to turn to 2018. As you all know, the budget needs to be adopted by consensus, and it's also a budget that needs to be approved by the individual government. So that's why we needed to discuss, and we needed to find a way forward. Try to find, as I say, the minimum pain for all of us, put it that way. So again, accepting that not all parties are entirely happy. I would like to congratulate us all that we did conclude on an increase. We did go for the scenario 2, more or less, which means that we will maintain the activities through maintaining the staff. As you know, within the UN, I think it's 2% now, they calculate the annual increase in the salaries of the permanent staff. So that is where we are, and I think that was a very gracious acceptance by a few of the parties that would suffer a significant increase in monetary terms. We have posted all the, as you probably already know, the draft resolution 12, Rev 1. And that includes a number of the suggestions raised by the floor at our working group. One of them being to look into, not for this meeting, but for the next MOP, to have the MOP at intervals of 4 years instead of 3 years. So there will be an analysis, and it's mentioned in the draft text. At our working group, we had some countries raising the flag in expressing that they felt their rise was too significant to be accepted. And we found that it was for the 2 countries, is paragraph 7 on page 2, that Algeria and Nigeria would be accommodated for with a cap of 50%, not 100%, but 50%. To accommodate for that, we added in one of the tables, was it Appendix 3? Yes, Appendix 3. At the very bottom, as you can see, that generates a deficit of 6,000 euros, which will be drawn from the trust fund, to be covered by the trust fund. I did not mention it, but there is not much leeway in the trust fund at present, so I would caution against drawing on the trust fund. The paragraph 7, I'm not sure where we are, what is posted, but I know in the French version, this solution and reference to paragraph, the Appendix 3 is mentioned, but I'm not sure about the English version. I think it's still with the Secretariat to actually add. Is it?
Sorry, Mr. Chair. We were looking at the text. What is the question? Which paragraph, sorry?
It's paragraph 7, page 2.
Yeah, on paragraph 7 about Algeria and Nigeria. Yes, yeah, something disappear here in the English version. The difference, we need 6,000 euros more because during the finance group, the chair told all parties that the contribution which some of them have sent to the government for an agreement will not change. So to compensate the 6,000 euros for Algeria and Nigeria, we need a withdrawal from the trust fund of 6,000 euros, which is a very small amount compared of what we have done at MOP6. It was 310,000. So in the next few minutes, or perhaps it's already done, On the version put on the website, the English one, the French one is already there, it will be mentioned that it will be financed by a withdrawal of the trust fund of 6,000 euros. And the fact that it is mentioned that it is at an exceptional basis for the budget 19 and 21 means it will no longer occur for the next triennium, 2022-2024, and Algeria in the working group agreed that it's really an exceptional request. Thanks.
Thank you. I was just asking if it was included or not, but I'm sure it will be. So it will be an update so that the parties are aware of this. I also could mention that we did note and include in paragraph 14 related to the limitation of how parties that are in arrear can actually participate, funded or unfunded, or in this case we request Standing Committee, Secretariat, Technical Committee to look into the possibility to suspend the right of votes for parties with more than 3 years in arrears. If it's possible or not, we'll have to see. So there is a task anyway for the mentioned groups to look into. And on paragraph 16, just a minor update, because it says urges parties to make voluntary contributions to the AEWA Trust Fund. It should be AEWA Voluntary Trust Fund. And it's also a single V, not W, it's AVL. Those are minor, and I hope that's accepted by the parties. I'm sure there could be much more to be said, but you will be looking into the tables and so on. What I would like to end with is that, as we all know, voluntary contributions are still an important factor in AEWA. And we all recognize the need to implement the African Initiative, Plan of Action for Africa. I'm mentioning that plan of activity specifically because it still needs to be funded. So bear that in mind. I would also like to mention that one of the or two maybe of the scenarios where focusing on increasing the capacity of the Secretariat in relation to their working hours. I think we do recognize, the benefit of that, but that was not taken on board by the parties. Probably to the chagrin of the involved persons. So I would like to comfort them and remind them that we will, in the Secretariat, we will try to accommodate and find solutions on the way forward, not least pending, of course, a continuation of already all the voluntary contributions that we do already receive or have received over the last few years. Which is, of course, very much appreciated. There was one thing I have to look. Looking at Appendix 5, Roman 5. It's a table, and it's about the 2050 UN scale who will be eligible for sponsorship, and those who are gray-colored are not eligible. That includes all the EU countries. That's what I wanted to mention, even if they do fall within the threshold of 0.2, so that you are aware of that. We have a appendix Roman 2. As we all know, we had an evaluation a couple of years ago by Nairobi on the stuff, and we recognized at that time that most of the stuff were both overperforming in relation to their post title. For each post title, there is a description of the tasks to be performed. So they were overperforming. They were doing more than the description of their posts. I think that is the concise description. So there was a recommendation to look into that, which was not adopted. It would have been a significant raise. But we also suggest that to keep that in mind for the next MOP. And there is a table there, Appendix Roman 2, and the rightmost column indicates that to be applicable, we need voluntary contributions, and there is a suggestion on that. We also decided to actually come back to the next MOP, not only with a financial overview of all contributions and expenditure, voluntary contributions that are, but we also wanted to create more transparency on this issue related to the in-kind, like labor persons. So this is an attempt to actually focus on that, and as I said, I think it is somewhere in the introductory text to the budgets. There is a sentence saying that the Secretariat will develop such an overview on how they are performing in relationship to the staffing hours and so on. I think that was it. It was a mouthful, both for me, but maybe for you as well. But if there are any questions, so on, we can do that, I'm sure, and this has to be adopted at the end of this day. So thank you again, Chair.
Okay. The Secretariat would like to add something, but before I allow the Secretariat, I want to thank the chairs of the respective working groups for a job well done. I know it's not been easy to come to where you are. I want to congratulate all of you and thank you for the compromises to the level where we are now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to apologize because the work of the chair of the finance group has not been so easy, because this morning, due to a cut-off, we lost our draft resolution. We have to redo it this morning. It was also why we were so late. So unfortunately, the Secretariat went very early this morning to provide the French translation and to upload the document, but we lost almost all the changes we have done, so we have to redo it, and you know how it could be difficult, because you have to look at all the table to be sure that the resolution you will adopt is in line with what you have agreed upon the chair leading. So I would like to apologize on behalf of the Secretariat and perhaps even ESCOM, the electricity company. Thanks.
Apology is noted, Secretariat. The outcomes of these working group documents are all posted. I'm told they are all posted now online in the folder of in-session documents. Additionally, hard copies have been provided to all delegations, at least for all the resolutions except for budget. I don't know if the budget resolution hard copies have been distributed, but at least for all the other resolutions, I'm told hard copies are also on your desks. We shall be waiting for the hard copies of the finance and the budget resolution also to be provided, but at least it's been posted online, so you can be looking at it. We shall have time to adopt it later on at the end. I hope you will have had enough time to go through the entire text and satisfy ourselves that we are ready to proceed with adoption. For those resolutions that we already have and that are posted, I hope we are ready to go into considering them at this time. I know somehow consensus has been reached for some resolutions, so, but I'm in your hands. We shall see how to proceed to adoption. Unless there is any urgent request for the floor, if there is any urgent request for the floor, you will be placing your flags up. If there is none, we shall proceed into adoption of the resolutions which are ready. Okay, I see no flag. I take it that we are ready to proceed. We shall begin with DR1, Rev 1, which is a resolution on the adoption of the AEWA Strategic Plan and Plan of Action of Africa. I put it to you that we adopt this resolution in its current form. Yeah, I recognize South Africa.
Thank you, Chair. Recalling the crucial importance of international collaboration across flyways to ensure the effective conservation of migratory waterbeds and their habitats, which is provided in the framework of AEWA, and aware that the theme of the 7th session of the AEWA meeting of the parties is Beyond 2020, Shaping Flyway Conservation for the Future. Appreciating the efforts by all AEWA contracting parties and partners towards advancing the implementation of the AEWA Strategic Plan 2009 to 2018 and AEWA Plan of Action for Africa 2012 to 2018. Aware of the disturbing outcomes of the assessment of the level of implementation of the AEWA Strategic Plan 2009 to 2018 and acknowledging the need for to further strengthen the implementation of the new AEWA Strategic Plan as the operational guidelines to shape the implementation of the agreement over the next decade, the Government of the Republic of South Africa engages to play a lead role in stimulating and advancing the implementation of the AEWA Plan of Action for Africa 2019 to 2027, adopted by the AEWA MOP7 as a comprehensive guide towards the implementation of the AEWA Strategic Plan 2019 to 2027 in the Africa region, through exemplary action on implementing the AEWA Plan of Action for Africa at the national level, as well as through promoting strengthened collaboration at regional and flyway levels, and in particular by championing the implementation of the AEWA International Multi-Species Action Plan for the conservation of the Benguela Current Upwelling System, coastal seabeds, and International Single Species Action Plans for the conservation of the white-winged flufftail and the grey-crowned crane across the applicable flyways, while ensuring to sustain a coherent and comprehensive network of suitable, protected, and well-managed sites of crucial importance for the survival of these populations of migratory waterbirds across their entire flyways. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, South Africa. I take it that the club is meant to upload the statement you've made, and it is total support for this resolution. Thank you for the good statement. The statement has been displayed on the screen. It's a good statement. We thank you for committing to engage as a champion to stimulate implementation of the strategic plan, and especially the plan of action for Africa as a tool for implementation of the AEWA strategic plan in Africa region. Okay, part of the statement that is displayed, there is a proposal that we welcome the South Africa statement, and we have that paragraph that is displayed as part of DR1 if there is no objection. The floor is open. Is there any request for the floor? Nore, you have the floor.
Just a minor thing, Chair. It says Plan of Action for Africa 2019-2017. Maybe it's 2027? Or yeah, we'll amend it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nore, for the sharp eye. Yeah, the period has a problem. That should be amended, 2019. Certainly we can't move from 2019 to 2017. So that should be amended. Thank you very much, Nore, for the observation. Do you have any other requests for the floor on this statement? If there is no objection, we shall take it that it is agreed to be included in DR1 before its adoption. But the floor is still open just to be sure that we are in agreement. Okay, I do not seem to see any request for the floor. I take it that it is agreed that this statement will be included in DR1. I now come back to you on adoption of DR1, Rev 1, with the inclusion of the statement that we just agreed upon. Are we ready to adopt DR1, Rev 1? Yeah, I do not see any flag. I take it that DR1, Rev 1 is duly adopted by MOP7. It's so decided. Thank you very much. We shall move to DR2, Rev 2, the resolution on Aichi targets. I open the floor for the meeting of parties to consider adopting DR2, Rev 2. I do not see any request for the floor. I take it that MOP7 duly adopts DR2, Rev 2. It is so decided. Thank you very much. We shall move to DR3, Rev 1. This is a draft resolution on amendments to the annexes of the agreement. I put DR3, Rev 1 before distinguished delegates of MOP7 for a decision. The floor is open. Good. I take it that the silence means that you are happy with the text of the resolution in its current form. I therefore take it that MOP7 duly approves and adopts DR3 Rev 1 amendments to the annexes. Thank you very much. We shall move to DR4. This is a resolution on definitions of terms used in Table 1. I open the floor for your consideration. Thank you very much. I take it that MOP7 duly adopts DR4 on definitions of terms used in Table 1. It is so decided. We shall move to DR5, Rev 1. This is a resolution on our international species action and management plans. I put it to the MOP8 delegates to consider adoption of DR5 Rev 1. The floor is open. Okay, I recognize Israel. Please take the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry to interrupt the great pace that we've been working at the last few minutes. Paragraph 7 of the draft resolution has the list of programs, action plans which are going to be extended. And in the earlier draft, there was a species that we had mentioned as to decide whether to extend its action plan or whether to retire it. Paragraph 6 has the ones that are being retired. The species we had mentioned is not mentioned here in the final version in either of those, and we would like to be sure it's clarified what's happening with it. And we would have a proposal of where to include it. The species we're speaking about is the black-winged pratincoal, known by its Latin name as Glariola normandiae. Now, the black-winged pratincoal in the draft resolution, which was distributed at the before the meeting, had been technical committee had proposed to retire it, so it would have appeared in 6. And we had suggested that it's maybe a little premature to retire it entirely, but what we are proposing sort of as a compromise perhaps here at this very late stage is to put it into paragraph 9, which speaks about looking at the validity of the corncrake, and we would add there also the black-winged pratincoal as a place for asking the technical committee to look into this action plan in order to make a decision about revising it or updating it or finding a coordinator for it. So our suggested then would be to, into paragraph 9, after the scientific name of the corncrake, crex, to add the words "and black-winged pratincoal, Glariola normandiae," and that would be our suggestion of where to put the species into this resolution, because as it stands, it doesn't appear in any of the other paragraphs. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Israel. I will invite the Secretariat to first respond and provide the clarification thought, and then we see how to proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Israel, for spotting this issue. Indeed, that was the agreement in the working group, and we would suggest to actually design a standalone paragraph for the Black-winged prating call, because the mandate in paragraph 9 is different. We would suggest that the paragraph contains a mandate for the technical committee, so extension for the next 3 years until MOP7, within which period the technical committee should assess again the Black-winged prating call according to the criteria established. If you're content with that, we will add this paragraph following this meeting.
Israel?
Thank you, Chair. I think that the Secretariat's suggestion is excellent, and we would be very happy to see that. I personally don't think we need to go over any specific text right now. We could trust the Secretariat to formulate it in the way that they suggested by heart. Thank you.
Okay, we have two options. If the meeting of parties agrees, we can trust the Secretariat that they will put the proposed text and we approve the resolution with that amendment. The alternative is to have the Secretariat come up with the text and we look at the resolution towards the end. So the choice is for this meeting. I think the amendment has been heard by you. So if you are okay, we can adopt the resolution with that amendment, trusting the Secretariat to make the necessary changes. Now, I want to propose to you that we adopt the resolution, trusting the Secretariat to add the text. Is that agreeable? Yeah, I see nods. That means there is agreement. So I take it that DR5 Rev 1 is adopted with the amendment proposed by Israel. Thank you very much. We shall proceed to DR6 Rev 1. This is a resolution on seabird conservation. I put it to you that we consider adopting DR6 Rev 1. I open the floor. I recognize Israel.
Thank you, Chair, for giving us the floor again. This time it's a very short amendment which we would request. In paragraph 1.4, during the working group discussion, we were discussing the impact of the invasive non-native species on seabirds. And we were looking at the issue of predation, and there were some suggestions of how to word linking those two issues of the predation and the non-native species, and the word specifically predation was put into the English version. I'm not sure how it was translated into French. And we feel that this has been, after thinking about it a little more since yesterday, that this narrows it too much, and we would propose to replace the word specifically with especially, which continues to put the emphasis on predation without limiting other impacts. So again, we would replace simply the word specifically with especially, if that's appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Israel. There is a proposal to replace those two words. Yeah, one word with the other. It's not a significant change. If it's agreeable to you, we shall adopt the resolution with that change, if there is no objection. Are we ready to adopt the resolution with that slight amendment? I see nods. So I take it that DR6 Rev 1 is duly adopted by MOP7 with a slight amendment proposed by Israel. Thank you very much. We shall break for coffee. Before we break for coffee, the Secretariat has some announcements. Secretariat, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our team told us that DR10 on the Standing Committee and DR12 on the Finance is being printed, so it should be available soon. And I would like to announce that the host government, South Africa, will be offering a barbecue to all participants here at the venue at 6 o'clock. I will tell you the room, but for those who are still there will be a barbecue, so thanks to the Department of Environmental Affairs, 6 o'clock this evening, please. So add it to your agenda, and I'm sure the proposal from South Africa will be adopted soon. Thank you.
Okay, we shall break for coffee. We should be back in the room within 20 minutes time. 20 minutes. Thank you. May we take our seats and proceed with the program? Welcome back from coffee break. We shall proceed with DR7, Rev 1. This is a draft resolution on strengthening monitoring of migratory waterbirds. I put it to you to consider DR7, Rev 1 for adoption. The floor is open. I recognize France. France.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. France would like to make a few suggestions to the French translation. So I take this draft resolution. We would rather say suivi rather than surveillance for monitoring. And there are several proposals that we would like to table to change the translations of several resolutions, and we will be forwarding these changes to you.
Okay. Is there any further request for the floor? We shall consider the comments raised by France. Do we have any further request for the floor on this resolution? I see none. I want to propose that the issues raised by France, they are of interpretation in nature, translation. So if the French-speaking members agree that France will send the correct translation, we would proceed with the adoption, but then the translation to the French version will be improved as suggested by France. Is that something acceptable, especially to the French-speaking? Yeah, it seems acceptable. So I take it that DR7 Rev 1 is duly adopted by MOP7, and the French version will be improved. Of course, it is also considered duly adopted because it is the same resolution. Thank you very much. We shall move to DR8, Rev 1, which is to do with guidance, revision and adoption of conservation guidance. I put to you for consideration DR8 Rev 1 to be considered for adoption. I open the floor. I do not see any requests for the floor. I take it that MOP7 agrees to adopt DR8 Rev 1. It is so decided. We shall move to DR9 Rev 2. This is a draft resolution on climate resilient flyways. I put to you for consideration for adoption DR9 Rev 2. The floor is open for your consideration. I recognize Slovakia. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I found a small mistake on page 2, second paragraph. The third line, there should be climate change adaptation, not adoption. Thank you.
Thank you, Slovakia. Yes, that will be corrected. It's been noted. Any further requests for the floor? I see none. I take it that DR9 Rev 2 is duly adopted by MOP7 with the correction, which is really a typing correction, which will be changed. With that change, I take it that you have adopted this resolution. It is so decided that it is adopted. We shall move to DR10 Rev 1. This is a resolution on the standing committee. The resolution, as posted, has some slight amendments. On page 1, where there is Croatia, it should be replaced with Moldova. So there is that slight change of replacement of Croatia as an alternate to Ukraine. It should be replaced with Moldova. So there is that change. I put to you for consideration of adoption this resolution with that amendment. This has to do with the standing committee. All your sub-regions have duly nominated membership. So the other text of the resolution is a standard text which has been there. So basically what is changing are the new members and alternates. So I put it to you that this resolution be adopted. The floor is open. I do not see any request for the floor. I take it that you are comfortable and therefore that DR10 Rev 1 has been duly adopted by MOP7. It is so decided. We congratulate, of course, the new members of the standing committee and the alternates upon assuming this office. We shall move to DR11, Rev 2, Technical Committee. I put to you for consideration of adoption DR11 Rev 2. The floor is open. Is Estonia, Belgium. Estonia will take the floor first, followed by Belgium.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Otherwise, we are satisfied with the draft resolution, but I think that in the working group, we proposed a text putting forward a request to the technical committee to evaluate the implications of moving from 3-yearly to 4-yearly meeting of parties, and there was a wide agreement on this in the working group, so we would like this to be considered and put in the minutes of the meeting as well, that this request would go to the technical committee as well. So should I read the proposal again, or is it acceptable to everybody? And it was already presented to the Secretariat as well, but we can still read it out once more if necessary.
Thank you, Estonia. Secretariat, would you want to clarify on Estonia before we have another party take the floor?
Thank you, Chair. The comment of Estonia relates to an operative paragraph in Resolution DR12, where the Standing Committee has been requested, working with the Secretariat and the Technical Committee, to evaluate the implications of moving from a 3-year cycle to a 4-year cycle of the meetings of the parties. If you agree, we would suggest that you adopt this resolution with the instruction to the Secretariat to incorporate that Technical Committee task into the work plan. It's a technicality. The mandate exists in the resolution. We will reflect that duly in the table of the work plan. And we'll do that similarly to the resolution that we discussed earlier, where we received a similar mandate for the Blackwing Prating Call following the closure of the MOP. Thank you.
Estonia, is that acceptable to you?
Yes, Mr. Chair, it's acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Belgium,
Thank you.
And then Israel.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I would like to raise a question to the Secretariat. I know that there are so many vacant positions in the Technical Committee, especially the alternates. And I just want to ask how and when will these positions be filled, especially if you see how many perfect potential candidates are here at the MAP. I can't think that there are not enough people around to fill these positions. So I just would like to ask the Secretariat what the plan is with this. Thank you.
Secretariat, take the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Belgium. Indeed, this issue was discussed in the advisory group when the group was considering the nominations. It's true that there are a lot of high-quality experts that could fill these positions, but they have to be willing to be nominated and to accept such a designation. Unfortunately, from Eastern Europe and Central Africa, we never received any nominations, and they have not been filled respectively. But there has been a concern also in the advisory group of the large number of vacancies. It was agreed that the Secretariat will proactively search with the parties in the respective regions qualified candidates to fill these positions in the intersessional period. There is a procedure for that. The chair of the the chair of the Technical Committee can appoint, in the case of a vacancy, an expert in consultation with the parties in the region. So we'll pursue that after MOP 8. For the alternate positions, the issue is such that they do not have a role per se, as long as the nominate member is serving. Therefore, there will be no proactive attempt to fill in the alternate positions. But if any of the regional representatives, the nominate members, for one or another reason needs to retire from the committee intersessionally, we'll use the same procedure, appointment by the chair to fill the nominate position at a short notice. Thank you.
Belgium, is that fine?
Yes, thank you.
Israel?
Thank you, Chair. We had a similar question, and it's been answered by the Secretariat. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further requests for the floor? I see Chair of the Technical Committee. You have the floor, Sauls.
Thank you, Chair. Just would like to note that it's estimated here only top priority costs of the Technical Committee work plan at about 1 million euros, exactly 915,000. And if we will compare to the budget adopted by this MOP for Technical Committee, we have 17,000 and only for travel expenses. So that's, again, I would like to raise your opinion that Technical Committee will be forced during the next triennium to work only based on its enthusiasm of its members if there will be no additional budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair of the Technical Committee. Yes, indeed, like the Chair of the Working Group on Finance and Administration reported, the situation is that bad, and of course, we invite contracting parties to consider providing voluntary contribution to the Secretariat to be able to deliver the mandate and the tasks that we are assigning the Secretariat, the Technical Committee, and the other sub-institutions. So the comments are well noted. We shall proceed. Is there any further requests for the floor on DR 11, Rev 2? It's before us for adoption. I do not see any further requests for the floor. I take it that with those clarifications provided by the Secretariat and with the concerns noted regarding the financing, I take it that MOP7 duly adopts DR 11, Rev 2. It is so decided.
Year 12 has been distributed since I get the printed copy. Okay. Let me see. Can we take this?
I'm told that DR 12 Rev 1 has now been distributed in hard copies.
Not true.
Can you confirm that you have in hard copies DR 12 Rev 1 Finance and Budget Resolution? Okay, I see Czech Republic. Yeah, Rev 2.
Yeah.
DR 12 Rev 2. All the delegations, you have this resolution? Okay, as you... Which, please raise your flag kindly. Your flag. Guinea, you have the floor.
Simply to tell you that I haven't yet received this draft resolution.
Okay, Secretariat, move around and confirm that DR12 Rev 2 is duly distributed. We shall skip it for the moment as people confirm and reconfirm. We shall come back to it. Yeah. Let's move to draft recommendation 7.1, implementation review process. There is a recommendation that was submitted by the government of Norway. This was posted and translated, so I put it to MOP7 for consideration. The floor is open. We are considering draft recommendation 7.1 on implementation review process submitted by the government of Norway during the course of the meeting of parties. I do not see any request for the floor. I take it that MOP7 duly adopts recommendation 7.1 on implementation review process submitted by the government of Norway. It is so decided. We shall move on to DR14, tribute to the organizers. This resolution has not been discussed in any working group, but the text, as you may have realized, is a standard one. It is a standard text that we have been using for quite some time. Nevertheless, I will open the floor for any comments or observations on DR14 before we move to its adoption. The floor is open. DR14. Ghana.
Thank you, Mr. Ghana, speaking on behalf of the African contracting parties, would like to thank South Africa for accepting to host and hosting this MOP. We know that it takes commitment and resources to organize such a MOP, and this has reflected in terms of the venue, facilities, services that have been accorded to delegates. We would like to congratulate South Africa for an excellent MOP, and African contracting parties would like to join them to celebrate this feat. Also, we cannot live without thanking all countries and the European Commission who contributed to the hosting of this MOP in terms of finances and preparation of documents. Particularly, we would like to thank the governments of the Federal Republic of Germany, Finland, Sweden, and Switzerland to facilitate our participation of this meeting. We also like to thank the Secretariat for a good job they've done so far in preparation and logistics for the meeting. Finally, we would like to say that we delegates should resolve to go back and implement the outcomes of this MOP to ensure a successful and a well-functioning agreement. AEWA is an agreement which is very functional, and would like us to commit ourselves for the conservation of our migratory birds. Thank you.
Thank you, Ghana, and contracting parties from Africa for that statement. I take it that that is statement of support of DR14. I will open the floor again for any requests for the floor. We are on DR14, tribute to the organizers. I do not see any further requests for the floor. I take it that MOP7 duly adopts DR14, which is a resolution providing a tribute to the organizers of MOP7. It is so decided. We shall proceed to dates and venue of the 8th session of the meeting of parties. This is contained in Resolution 7.13. Resolution 7.13. Again, this resolution has not been discussed in any working group. But I also remind you that this is a standard text that we have been using for quite some time. Perhaps what is to be inserted there is the host country of MOP8, if there is any. And so I will open the floor for any parties that would like to propose to offer MOP8. So I open the floor. I recognize Hungary. Hungary, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me read the letter of Dr. Zsolt Semjén, our Deputy Prime Minister, sent on November 15 to the Executive Secretary, Dr. Jacques Trouvier. Dear Dr. Trouvier, please allow me to express my appreciation for the agreement on the conservation of African, Eurasian migratory water birds, AEWA, and greetings to you as the Executive Secretary of the agreement. I have the honor to inform you that the government of Hungary is preparing for the 2021 World Hunting and Nature Exhibition, One with Nature, that will focus on the relationship between man and nature and the responsible, sustainable utilization of our natural environment as an important means to conserve biological diversity. The exhibition is planned to take place towards the end of September 2021. With reference to our previous discussions, I have the honor to invite you to hold the 8th meeting of the parties of the AEWA in Budapest, Hungary, within the time frame of the exhibition in 2021. The government of Hungary is ready to lend its financial support to the organization of the meeting. I am looking forward to hosting the AEWA MOP8 in Budapest in 2021. Yours sincerely, Dr. Zsolt Semjén, Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Chairman, protection of migratory water birds is very important for Hungary. Our country provides a wide range of wetland habitats, from meadows and rivers through alkaline lakes and fish ponds to one of the largest lakes in Europe, the Balaton. Hungary is a hub in Central Europe for many species that are on the way to their wintering or back to their breeding sites. Just to mention one of those, the common crane, the majority of the world population of which crosses our country every year, and the famous Hortobágyi puszta is a major feeding and resting ground for them. This year we had a record number of cranes. Over 175,000 birds stayed in Hortobágyi. We remain committed to protect and manage these areas as to be suitable for migratory water birds. And as you see, we have a lot to offer for those who are interested in birds. Hope that many of you will have the chance to visit some of these areas. We would like to take this opportunity to warmly welcome you and hope to see you all in 2021 in Budapest. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Hungary. The big round of applause that I've had, I take it that it is in support of Hungary hosting MOP8. Nevertheless, I will open the floor for any objections, if there is any, or any further offer. So the floor is open. I do not see any requests for the floor. I take it that the thunderous applause that came after the statement from Hungary is a clear endorsement of Hungary as the next host of MOP8, and I will congratulate Hungary in advance upon being selected to host MOP8. Since I have not seen any objection, I take it that Hungary is duly adopted by MOP7 as the host for MOP8. I congratulate you, and I consider it that Resolution 7.13 is so decided with that amendment. We shall move to adoption of the report of the meeting. This report has proceedings of the first 2 days. You don't need to mind, it does not include today's proceedings because, of course, they can't be read now. As per our rules of procedure, the proceedings for today will be added and approved after the MOP in accordance with our rules of procedure. So I invite you to look at the report of the meeting that is circulated, which covers the first 2 days of the plenary. Do we have any comments on the draft report of the meeting as posted? I do not see any request for the floor. I take it that the draft report reflects what transpired on the first day and the second day of plenary of MOP7. And I am looking around to see if there is any comment or objection. There being none, I take it that the draft report of the meeting is duly adopted. We shall send you the final report when the proceedings of the last day are included. Of course, this report will be circulated as it has always been for your consideration. So I take it that the interim report is duly adopted, and we shall be sharing the final report with inclusion of the final day of the plenary. As per our rules of procedure, the last day proceedings are approved by the chair before being posted, so we shall do what it takes to confirm that the proceedings of the last day reflect what has transpired in this meeting. Thank you very much. Now we shall come back to DR 12, Rev 2, which is draft resolution on finance and budget. I will open the floor. I'm sure by now you have already received the hard copies. In case you have not, you can access the soft copy online because it is posted. So I will open the floor now for MOP7 to discuss DR12 Rev 2. The floor is open. I recognize Israel.
Thank you, Chair. We are in favor of the draft resolution. We just have a small editing request. At the beginning of Appendix 3 in the title, we would ask that after the dates, in parentheses, it says in euro. This appears in all the other appendices, and we would like to see it added to the appendix title in Appendix 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Israel. The comment is well taken. Is there any further requests for the floor? Yes, I recognize Czech Republic.
Thank you, Chair. We just want to have a minor editorial comment on the operational paragraph 16. We would like to add a word voluntary after the AEWA. So it reads AEWA Voluntary Trust Fund, not AEWA Trust Fund, because we used the word AEWA Trust Fund in the operational paragraph 24, and it actually refers to a different AEWA Trust Fund. Just to make this resolution clear, which trust funds do we refer to? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Czech Republic. That's a fair comment. I confirm that it will be improved. The order of words will be changed, and the trust fund will be clarified in the final text. The floor is still open. Okay. Since I do not see any further request for the floor, I take it that MOP7, duly constituted, plenary adopts DR12 Rev 2. It is so adopted. We had an item on the agenda requested by the government of South Africa on any other business. I invite the Republic of South Africa or any other country to take the floor if there is any other urgent business that you think deserves the time of MOP7. I will open the floor very briefly.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, we requested that during the course of discussions, there might be items that require further deliberations under any other item, and we requested this be opened. I think most of the ideas we have were addressed during the COP, because one of the key things we thought maybe might help was how the AEWA MOP7 is going to participate in the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework, considering the fact that by the 15th of December, the organizations and individuals are required to put forward some inputs into the process, and the deadline is the 15th of December. I think in one of the interventions by the Secretariat, it was mentioned particularly on IPBES assessments, which was another issue that the AEWA provides inputs through the Mother Convention or the Framework Convention, the CMS. I don't know whether it is the same even for these inputs, because it's very important that we as the AEWA community participate in this global process formally. it might assist if they can provide some reflections on what is their plan of participation in this very important process. Thank you.
Thank you, South Africa. Is there any further requests for the floor on this matter? Okay, there seems to be no further requests for the floor. Of course, that brings us to the end of our business of MOP7. I want to congratulate everybody for all the decisions you have made, and we hope that these decisions will be put into action, and we hope that we are all committed towards realizing and implementing the decisions we've just made. So we shall move into the closure of the meeting to allow adequate time for the side events to proceed and also lunch. We have about 9 minutes towards the official time of breaking off. We hope that we can finish the closing ceremony within that period and also be able to have the side events take place. I want to encourage every one of you to attend the side events. There is a side event on Mediterranean Waterbirds Network. I encourage you to go to room 1, Flamingo, at 12:15 to 1 to attend this side event, which is looking at trends of waterbird populations in North Africa from 1990 to 2017. There are several other side events. I want to encourage all of you to attend these side events and also, of course, have lunch. I saw a request from a European Union. European Union, kindly take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We would like to make a closing statement on behalf of the European Union. The European Commission has the honour to speak on behalf of the EU and its member states. We wish to express our sincere thanks to the government and people of South Africa for their excellent hosting of this meeting and also for providing us with the opportunity to experience at first hand the magnificent nature and cultural heritage of your country. We would also like to express our warm gratitude to the chairs and vice chairs of the meeting, as well as of the working groups, and to the AEWA Secretariat for all the work that they have done in helping make this MOP a success. This has been an important and timely meeting. While the EU and its member states remain committed to progress towards achieving the 2020 biodiversity targets, the central theme of this conference on Beyond 2020, Shaping Flyway Conservation for the Future, has provided all contracting parties of AEWA with a real opportunity to shape our future common agenda. The adoption of the new strategic plan for 2019 to 2027 and the plan for Africa are therefore major milestones in providing a framework for cooperation and future action. These plans capture the key challenges for successful conservation and sustainable use, ranging from strengthening knowledge and the science base to ensuring a strong legal underpinning and sound governance mechanisms. The success in their delivery is dependent on the commitment of many people, as well as on assuring the necessary resources to promote compliance with implementation of the agreement. This requires important financial resources. We have had discussions on the budget of at this meeting of the parties, which underline the need to have clear priorities for action so that we focus limited resources on the most pressing and important conservation priorities. Together with the AEWA Secretariat, the EU and its member states will need to examine ways to support delivery of key elements of the plan, including through possible voluntary contributions. In this regard, a key EU priority remains supporting the development of capacity building, training and action in Africa. Ultimately, the success of conservation is determined by practical action. The work of AEWA on species action plans is a core delivery mechanism. Important progress has been made at this MOP in relation to adopting plans, including for several water bird species that come into conflict with human interests. Such management work is important, but we also particularly welcome the recognition at this MOP that the main focus on species action planning has to be on species in decline. The European Union and its member states are committed to continue to strengthen our partnership with AEWA in developing and implementing species action plans, including, where relevant, involving adaptive harvest management approaches for huntable species to ensure that any use of waterbirds is sustainable. The conservation and wise use of wetlands is central to delivery of the flyway objective of AEWA. The earlier work developed under the Wings Over Wetlands project and other initiatives to identify important wetlands for migratory waterbirds remains highly relevant. The EU and its member states have established a network of special protection areas under the EU Birds Directive, although much work is still needed for its effective management. We look forward to action to strengthen the network of protected wetland areas along the flyway of species, and that this is done in ways that also benefit local communities who live in and depend upon these areas. There's a great deal of work ahead of us all to achieve the objectives of AEWA and advancing the conservation of our shared heritage of waterbirds. The EU and its member states look forward to meeting this challenge. Finally, as Hungary has offered to host the next meeting of the parties, the EU and its member states very much look forward to welcoming you all to Budapest in 2021. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for those very good words, European Union. Do we have any further requests for the floor for closing statement? Can we have a representative of observers, or if there is? Is that Ramsa? Ramsa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like, on behalf of the Ramsar Secretary General, Madam Marta Roas Urigo, to thank South Africa for this wonderful MOP7 in this wonderful town, city of Durban. And I would also like to thank the AEWA Secretariat for our several common action for synergy between this agreement on the Ramsar Convention. And finally, I would like to invite you for a site event from 1 to 1:45 within the room Flamengo just to have a brief introduction of the global wetland outlook and Ramsar, a key practical tool to address threats to wetlands, the Ramsar Advisory Mission. Thanks to all the participants, contracting parties, and the other observers. It was a wonderful exercise and opportunity to network with all of you. Thank you very much.
The delegations to attend the side events because you know organizing side events takes resources, and so now that we are closing before the side events, we want to stress that you take time and attend the side events. But I also want to reconfirm, as communicated earlier, that we still have an event by the host government in the evening. So those of you who are not traveling, you are directed, not requested. You are directed using the powers of the chair to attend that event. Those who will not attend will be sanctioned. Okay? Of course, further announcements. We know that there will be a standing committee meeting at 2 p.m. So the newly elected members of the standing committee, which includes Hungary as the host government for MOP8, should attend the standing committee meeting at 2 p.m. in the EU coordination room. Of course, the standing committee is open to other delegations as observers. So those of you who are interested in attending, you are free to attend this meeting. We shall now move towards the closing ceremony of MOP7. May I now take this opportunity to invite the host government to come to the podium and give a closing statement to distinguished delegates of MOP7. The Republic of South Africa, kindly take the floor.
Thank you, Chair. And good day, ladies and gentlemen. Executive Secretary of AEWA, Dr. Jacques Trovellier, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. I speak on behalf of the South African government, the Provincial Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs, and the eThekwini municipality. It has been indeed a great pleasure for us to host the AEWA family in this amazing province of KwaZulu-Natal. The success of the AEWA MOP7 meeting brings emotions that make it difficult to bid you farewell, since it feels like we are losing an integral part of ours. Distinguished guests, we believe the AEWA MOP7 has set a robust and clear strategy and the plan of action for Africa to set us on a path towards achieving the theme of the meeting, which is Beyond 2020, Shaping Flyaway Conservation for the Future. As mentioned last night at the dinner event by our Chief Operations Officer, there are several key initiatives currently underway in South Africa that fit in very well with the objectives of the AEWA strategic plan and the plan of action for Africa. And these, to remind ourselves, include 6 frontier conservation areas with Botswana, Namibia, Lesotho, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Swaziland. South Africa also has 23 Ramsar and 10 World Heritage sites across the country. Equally important is that our cabinet recently approved 20 marine protected areas, and this translates to about 5% of our marine zone under protection now. This places South Africa at an advantage towards implementing the AEWA strategic plan and the Africa Plan of Action over the next triennium in pursuit of shaping flyway conservation for the future. In addition, South Africa understands the responsibility that comes with AEWA MOP presidency and hereby undertakes to make a difference over the next triennium leading to AEWA MOP 8. It is also very important to emphasize that the successful implementation of the AEWA strategic plan and the plan of action for Africa will need the following 3 ingredients: champions, partnerships, and resources. So we look forward to strengthening the current and establishing new partnerships towards the implementation of the plan of action for Africa and the AEWA strategy. Now, as we all know, ladies and gentlemen, that behind every successful meeting, there is a formidable team that works behind the scenes to ensure the success. I'd like to begin by expressing our appreciation to the AEWA Secretariat for giving us the opportunity to host the AEWA MOP7, and also give credit to our excellent translators, interpreters, editors, for working tirelessly to ensure that communication is smooth in every respect. We'd also like to thank the chairs of the working groups for steering the discussions that led to the agreements. I also want to express my gratitude to the Bureau members who guided our work with a steady hand, and welcome the new Bureau members, including the new members of the Standing Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been so amazing as well, and we hope that we were able to meet your expectations in every respect. We hope that you enjoyed the respective field excursions, especially the guys as well. We also hope that you've had the opportunity to explore the city of eThekwini. If not, we invite you to do so in the next hours or a couple of days if you are prolonging your stay. I must also acknowledge the fantastic teams behind the scenes without mentioning names from the Department of Environmental Affairs and the Provincial Department of Environmental Affairs, as well as the eThekwini municipality for the awesome work in putting together the AEWA MOP7 meeting, especially towards the finalization of the plans for this meeting together with the AEWA Secretariat. Finally, bon voyage as you leave for the respective destinations. Until we meet again, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Republic of South Africa. I will now invite the Executive Secretary of AEWA to make his closing statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, dear friends, I would like to start by expressing my deepest thanks to our hosts, the Department of Environmental Affairs of South Africa, the Province of KwaZulu-Natal, and the eThekwini municipality. Thank you for the warm welcome here in Durban and your gracious hospitality. And I remind you, barbecue at 6. You have made us all feel at home during this past week, except perhaps for the weather, because in Germany it's a bit colder. During these days together, we have worked hard to deliver on our MOP7 slogan, and reminding by Barney, beyond 2020, shaping flyway conservation for the future. I'm very happy to witness the progress that we have made. But at the same time, I know that we are all very conscious of the many challenges that still lie ahead of us. I wish to congratulate the parties on the adoption of the new AEWA strategic plan and the plan of action for Africa, which both outline our path for the next decade in waterbird conservation. Although ambitious indeed, these two plans outline what needs to be done if we are really serious about the fate of the species we have vowed to protect under the agreement. I am confident that collectively, with strong partnerships and sufficient resources, and by going beyond our conservation bubble, we will be able to deliver on this ambitious roadmap. In fact, we must. In addition, this meeting of the parties has adopted very concrete decisions on the conservation and sustainable use of our waterbirds. New species action and management plan, conservation priorities for seabirds, guidance on water monitoring, just to name a few. I'm also relieved that after challenging negotiation on the budget for the next triennium, we have reached an agreement which will allow the Secretariat to continue servicing the parties for 3 more years. Thanks to all parties which have made a special effort linked to the change of the UN scale. In this regard, I'm also very grateful for the additional generous voluntary support provided to the agreement from several of our parties and partners. All contribution, listen to me, all contribution, both small and large, are welcome and much appreciated. Such additional support is really crucial for the implementation of our agreement. Before coming to an end, and it's more social part of my speech, I would like to invite some key people to the stage without whom this MOP would not have been taken place. So from the Department of Environmental Affairs, could, lady first, of course, I'm a French, could Elise, Malta, and Umbu please join me here on the podium? Good. Umbu, Malta. Please, yeah, stand. Yeah. Okay. Oh, in front? Okay. Yeah, as a token of our gratitude, please accept Umbu this gift. And And before Malta and Umbu leave, I will try not to break anything. Okay, yeah. Please accept also some bags with gifts for the Department of Environmental Affairs staff, which we would like ask you to distribute on our behalf, just to keep the ceremony a bit short. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you to you. Next, I would like to thank our excellent chair, Shoni, which unfortunately could not be here today. And believe me, I have been working hard even before, during our phone calls, to organize a whole meeting with this team. So I would like to thank, of course, Shoni, as well our vice chair, Barry Rega, who has expertly guided us through the adoption of the decision today. So, Barry Rega, if you want to join me here. Thanks, Barry Rega. And I hope you continue to deliver your wise advice to AEWA. You are still part of the CMS family, and we will meet again. I would like to thank our two working group chairs, who ensure that we reach decision on all draft resolution. David Oshton, please come up here to the podium. Okay, I have only 3 pages to read and we're done. No. Please join me in giving another round of applause for our fantastic interpreters and report writers. Yesterday, while you were on the field, I have already the opportunity to thank here the local staff, the staff of the venue, and the entire team of this convention center. But I would like you, parties, observers, to give a round of applause to the local staff, the technical and logistic support team, as well as the entire team of the Olive Convention Center. Sorry. Last but not least, I would like to thank all my staff in the AEWA Secretariat. They are really fantastic because they even convinced me to use WhatsApp during this meeting. As well, and thanks to them, now I'm an IT man almost. As well as the CMS Secretariat staff, which illustrates the good synergy within our family. The UNV, the UN volunteers, which allow us to bring here Tilan, which was of a great help for the Wi-Fi particularly. So I would like to thank them all of them belonging to different units of the UN, including, of course, our AFMU team and Maya here, that support us for all the hard work in preparing, carrying out this conference. So please give them a big round of applause. My last words of gratitude and directed to you, dear colleagues, dear friends. Thanks to all of you for your constructive input and positive spirit. That's the spirit of the AEWA family. Thanks to you, and let me applaud you. With these closing remarks, let me wish all of you a safe return home, happy holidays, and a happy new year. Thank you, Giyabonga.
Thank you very much, Executive Secretary of AEWA Agreement. Yeah, all the thanks have been given, so I have nothing else to add, but permit me, distinguished delegates of MOP7, to add my voice on behalf of all of you to thank the government and the people of the Republic of South Africa, more particularly the national and the provincial governments and the municipality of eThekwini, all of you distinguished delegates for your compromising spirit, distinguished members of observers and partners of AEWA, the chairs of the working groups that have made this process very smooth, the secretariat staff, the interpreters, the wonderful team of OCC, and every one of you who have made this MOP7 a success. This has been a collective effort of all of you, and I want to thank you. Before I declare MOP7 officially closed, I want to cite a quote which I came across yesterday when we were on the Heritage Trail. Those of you who were in the field trip of the Heritage Trail. I came across a quote which I think is relevant for this meeting. It says, what we think, or what we know, or what we believe is, in the end, of little consequence. I want to repeat that what we think, what we know, or what we believe is in the end of little consequence. The only consequence is what we do. This means that whichever passion we have for the migratory waterbirds, whichever resolution we make here, whichever statements and retaliation of commitment we make are of little consequence. What is of consequence is what action we shall take on the ground to improve the conservation status of migratory waterbirds. With that quote, I declare the MOP7 officially closed. Thank you very much. I wish you safe journeys to your respective destinations. Of 6 program